Everything else, they all train during the day, and they have to wait for dark. Each time the bell rings at the same time, the horse whip is waved, so that the Seabiscuit gradually develops a conditioned reflex to the bell. Slowly, as soon as he heard the bell, he would rush out. During the day they let the cookie sleep. No matter how many reporters wanted to take pictures, they wouldn't wake him up. It didn't take long for Seabiscuit to be able to run wild in the dark center. Although Xiaohong couldn't see anything, he fully trusted the night vision of the biscuit, and let him take himself through the darkness for 2 weeks quickly passed. The strength of the Seabiscuit was stronger, and he was ready for a decisive battle. But on this day, Xiaohong saw a deceased person who was his first employer when he was 15 years old. The old employer who was once rich is now penniless. He wanted to sell the only one horse, but he was in poor health, so he wanted to ask Xiaohong to see it. In the past, strange others took a photo, with the stamped certification of famous knights. Jingtou can sell at a high price, and Xiaohong immediately agreed. However, while riding, the horse was frightened and threw Xiaohong off the horse in a frenzy. He couldn't untie his feet, and he could only be woken up by being dragged all the way. After the accident, Xiaohong barely managed to save her life, but his right leg was completely broken, and even after the operation, she would be lame for life. Her knightly path ended forever. When Xiaohong woke up, she heard the news and was unusually calm and mature. He wouldn't let the old man announce his retirement because it was the glory of the Seabiscuits. Xiaohong made a great decision, recommending his friend from childhood to adulthood, who was also a top corps soldier, to replace him with cookies when the soldiers came. Xiaohong instructed him in the hospital bed. From day to night, he taught him the skills of controlling cookies. In fact, it's not just a skill, it's more about how to love her Aviv. Hey, baby. In the end, Xiaohong asked the patient to close the door because what he was going to tell was top secret. He said that although he had to take the lead in the early stages, he would let the opponent catch up before the final corner. The patient was stunned. Why the sight for George? The race, it was only 10 a.m. this morning. The racecourse was already crowded. To stop only 15 streets away, people had eaten 60,000 hot dogs, drunk 2,000 barrels of beer and 64 tons of lemonade. US companies also take a half day off so that employees can listen to the broadcast of the event. On that day, more than 40 million Americans listened to the odds of broadcasting Seabiscuits at 1-2 and were not favored. But when he came out, the audience cheered, and this was the horse of the people. The game was a head-to-head duel between the two kings. There were no other players, and when the game began, the Seabiscuit really pressed the training and rushed to the front without distraction. As he galloped, the audience strode above the green field to follow in the footsteps of Cookie. He touched the hearts of many people, and it didn't take long for them to come to the final bend. At this time, the Cookie was 2 horses ahead and looked like it had won steadily. But the 3 men who knew him best were all muttering, "Slow down, slow down, slow down." Not everyone in this world is willing to give up the lead to believe in the soul of a fighter. Sure Osman, worthy of Xiaohong's trust, fulfilled his promise.
Finish.
So, when the biscuits slowed down and the deep perfect horse caught up a little bit, at this time they went hand in hand, regardless of whether it was Shen Yuan. At this time, the biscuit sensed the pressure of the opponent. He saw the opponent's eyes. He began to forget all the battles, and only this instinct remained in his heart. In these few short seconds, in the heart of High Biscuit, the soul of the heavenly warrior burned. The tsunami-like shouts of the Seabiscuits breaking through the finish line seemed to drown the racecourse. The myth of the warlords ruling the racecourse for many years was shattered. This child who is only 1 meter and 5 meters, this child who has been bullied since childhood, defeated the perfect opponent who is tall and handsome and well-born. 3 horse bodies, this is the victory of the warrior, this is the victory of the brave, this is also the victory of the civilians. Life is a miracle. A century war is over, but the story of life is still long, long. For Xiaohong, who was also frustrated from childhood, he loves cookies deeply, and he also loves the glorious moment of horse racing, which does not belong to him, and the future no longer belongs to him. Her excitement gradually condensed in the hospital room. For the desolation, the wife paid for the return of Xiaohong to the west to recuperate on his farm, while she accompanied High Biscuit to continue the campaign. I don't know if the little red box biscuit really has a similar fate in the underworld. Soon after, the Seabiscuit that was playing outside was injured, the ligament was fully segmented, and the doctor said that he would never be able to race again, and he suggested euthanasia for it, fixing this contempt for life. Xiao Hua stared at the doctor fiercely, and on a quiet afternoon, Xiao Hong was reading on the farm, and he saw in the distance his partner Xiao Hong, who was wearing a red robe and bandages. Unable to wait for him to come, he walked eagerly toward him on crutches. When Biscuit saw Xiao Hong, she was also excited. One man and one horse, embraced together, their friendship has long gone beyond knights and horse racing, but close friends who share will and woe. In the days of recuperation, Xiao Hong went limping on one leg every day, helping Biscuits in the stables, trying to ask him to take her for a walk in the grove, basking in the sun to tell him stories, teaching him how to raise wounded Biscuits like to roll on the grass. Xiao Hong would accompany her to lie down in the soft grass. A few months passed, and the Biscuit could trot, so Xiao Hong stuffed a wooden stick into her boots to fix her legs and practice moving forward with the Biscuit. Without a venue, they shoveled a track under the trees, lap after lap, and they ran briskly, as if the race was running endlessly. It's their tomorrow. Now when eating with her wife, Xiao Hong is no longer rigid, eating and drinking, just like when she ate with her parents when she was a child. Another half a year passed, Xiao Hong finally cured the Biscuit, and when he ran again in the horse farm, just like at the peak, Eugene only crushed the broken bones. Xiao Hong still felt powerful, he still wanted to play. When he made this request, the old goods who had always been tolerant were the first to disagree. Xiao Hong is determined and would rather be disabled for life than give up sports, which makes the old or upset. He asked people everywhere for their opinions, asked Tom about his wife and asked the doctor about the entanglement and annoyance of the old goods, not because he was afraid of losing. But because he had already regarded Xiao Hong as a son, he was afraid that Xiao Hong would never be able to stand up again. Until the soldiers. Man said a word to the old man, at Brick Man this work. In this way, Xiao Hong played again. When people saw the severely injured discrimination and the horse racing crowd erupted in cheers, regardless of the ending, seeing them come back was also the most inspirational miracle. At the beginning of the race, High Biscuit gradually struggled under the attack of the horses. He was 7 years old, as a horse racing is not in his prime. Xiao Hong endured severe pain to cheer him up. Yes, his injured leg was constantly biting his nerves. Seeing that the Biscuit was pulled farther and farther away by the large army, everyone's heart was entangled in the age and physical strength of the most difficult barrier to break through, not to mention that he had been seriously injured, and the soldiers who had been leading slowed down and came to the Biscuit. It turned out that I had also fought with Cookies. He knew what Cookies needed, was an opponent frustrated with injuries and ages, and these robbers in fate wanted to stop it. But when his heart of champion is awakened again, he will never struggle again. We saw the Seabiscuit rush out of shape, as in the past, it exceeded a 2, and then all the opponents of the crowd shouted their names, but the little red box Biscuit was no longer audible. No matter how many yard bodies they pulled away from the second place, they didn't care anymore, because at this moment, there was only the road under their feet in their eyes. Because in this life, they do not run to overcome and please anyone, but to celebrate life.